Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound. It is our regular Sunday interview, as you've already noticed. And you have already noticed that I have a pleasure of talking to somebody who is part of our little scene for 30 years now. So I'm very happy to have Sean Ingram from Coalesce and now Idle Heirs with us here on the show. Sean, thanks for joining.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. This is very fun. Thanks for including me in this for sure.
The first thing that I always ask is like, do you have any kind of band merch, shirt, or any record that you would like to pluck from a friend of yours? We will, of course, be talking about Idle Airs in a moment. I'll give you a moment to think while I pluck something that is close to my heart. My dear friends in Sleepwalker, don't make me pronounce the Chinese name. I'm not gonna try that. But yeah, everybody who knows this channel knows that we love Sleepwalker, and they should be getting much more attention. Sean, any artist where you say that
Yeah.
one should be getting more attention?
Yeah. A Museum of Light. So
Okay.
they're from Seattle, and it's a three-piece. And yeah, I just fell in love with them. My vocal trainer, it's like her brother's band, and um, we're working on vocals, and she gave me this one song, and she goes, "Are you trying to do something like this?" And I was like, "I don't know what this is, but like I want more of it." And she goes, "Oh, it's my brother's band." Come to find out, they are connected in the scene out in the Pacific Northwest, and
Mhm.
we just did a 3-day run with them in Great Falls,
Cool.
and it was really cool. But like, yeah, it's just super DIY. They have this really kick-ass light setup
Mhm.
that's incorporated with the drummers. So it has like one of those like Christmas tree things that you step
Okay.
on, and he stomps on it with certain beats and the lights. I mean, it's just so creative.
Cool.
And yeah, so their record just came out, and they actually recorded at Ocean Sound in Norway, the same as us, I think the month before us.
Okay.
And we found out about that later because I was talking about my recording experience, and they were too. And I was like, "Wait, were you in Norway?" It's kind of like that Spider-Man meme, with the arm. He's like, "Hey, yeah," and then yeah, so like very weird. My connection, multiple connections to that band, and I'm in love with their music, and they just dropped their new album.
Isn't it funny how the world basically nowadays is just nothing more than a bigger village? Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
for everybody who wants to find out about Museum of Light, remember we'll have the link to their Bandcamp here just underneath the video. So maybe you want to check them out. Sean, when I prepared for this video interview, I was, of course, going through the new record. I was trying to make sense of some of the lyrics. But then I stumbled upon something that is, I think, on your Spotify account, and it's also in the press kits, and I think I've also seen it on Bandcamp somewhere. It's a quote that I would like to confront you with. It says that Idle Heirs is a band born from necessity.
yeah, necessity. Yeah,
Yeah, so can you explain that one because it sounds very rational in a way, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's rational and in a very irrational way, right? Or
Mhm.
maybe vice versa. But yeah, so um, I haven't done anything since Ox. That is a very long time ago. It's around 15 years ago. And it wasn't due to any conscious my voice, and just wanting to quit or anything like that. It's just I just didn't play. I was focused on creating a business and creating revenue streams for a lot of the bands you mentioned before we got on the show. Like we handled all of Aaron Turner's stuff and sleep and neurosis still and all that. So that's really where my focus was, and so for 15 years I toiled and lied to myself that I could find art in Excel sheets and making money, and it really just, came to a head after, after the pandemic. Owning a business in America, and I'm sure everywhere else at that time, was really difficult. There was chaos all the time, and I was responsible for the livelihoods of 30 people. Nobody's happy. I mean, I had to lay people off. They were unhappy. I
Mm.
kept people on. They were unhappy because they didn't get the free $600. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, it's like nobody was working with me, I felt. And so, I'm a huge Futurama fan. There's this episode where, it's an evolution episode where they're, they're being attacked by all these robotic dinosaurs, and Amy says, "Look out for the next thing." And that's like, it's because they
Mm.
just get hit all the time. That's how I felt, and I didn't want to get hit by the next thing. And so, um, at that point, I lost a partner at the time. I say this all the time. Not everybody made it through the pandemic the same. A lot of people kind of lost their minds and got into just weird stuff, and I
Mm.
experienced that with a lot of friends, and unfortunately with a partner. He was just a shadow of his former self, and I was not, like, no one actually was capable of working with him. So the next thing that I was avoiding was going out of business. And so we, me and my one partner left, we had decided that we were going to exit our business, and that's like a huge life change. You know what I mean? It's like a divorce, and even though it's voluntary. And so, anyways, the point is that that is happening. I lost my father. I lost one of my childhood mentors. I lost, Ralph, our grandfather, and it was just death after death after death. So it was
Yep.
like about six deaths that just couldn't come up for air. Just kept hitting it. So I just spiraled out, really, is what happened. It's like, I don't want to be here. Like, I'm done with this. There's nothing interesting left. I don't care about money.
Mm.
I don't care about, like, there's nothing I care about.
Mm.
And so that went on for about a year, and my wife had recognized that in me, and she had said, she goes, "Look, I don't know what you need to do this, but you need to do music. It's the
Mm.
only time I've seen you happy. Whatever it takes, figure it
Mm.
out and go do it." And so that is what that quote is really referencing, is
Mm.
that was my way. It was really just like, this band really is my reintroduction to living.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Coming from like that brink. So, um, you know, that, I mean, it just, life is so funny because it's like it can be so fun and it can be so tedious at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
And it really is what you make of it, but like, I tell you what, I would give great warning to anyone who spends all of their time making their fortune or making fortunes for others, if you
Yep.
do not address um, the need to be creative.
Yeah. It never.
Came from, and obviously how I got this business, etc. So I just was not tending to it.
Yeah. It's money can't fill the void that emotions carry along with them. Of course not. So
Yeah,
then this. Yeah.
and I always say this too. It's like money ruins everything. It just truly does. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I know you need it. It's like, if you treat it like a tool, it's a tool. But
Yeah.
like, man, it can ruin things quick.
Of course.
It can ruin people. It can ruin projects. Yeah, for sure.
Friendships.
Yeah, absolutely, everything.
Yeah. And then this necessity is it the necessity to keep you alive in a way?
To be creative, yeah, absolutely. Especially in that moment. I don't know what that means moving forward, but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and that during that 2 year period of spiraling out, I mean, I think it was, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
you just become a zombie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just, and then wild shit will happen and you have no reaction. You're just like,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. You're blank. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, whatever, you know what I mean? And like, there's just no passion in your life. Food doesn't have taste, things aren't hot, things aren't cold, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why even be here? So I get that, so yeah, for me, for sure. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and the more you try to keep a straight face, the more you try to keep up the mask, the hollower you are inside, right?
I'm so sorry. My
No problem. I'll repeat
my
it.
internet cut out on you. Can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
no,
I
of
just
course.
only got 1 second in.
The more you try to keep a straight face, the more you try to keep the mask, the hollower you get inside, right?
I think so, and
Yeah,
like I was at the point where I wasn't even wearing a mask. I was just like, huh, I don't give a shit. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, you're
I
like,
know, I do.
it's like when people interrupt you, they already know
Mhm,
what you're gonna say. Like it doesn't,
mhm,
I mean, I had that real problem, so yeah, I mean, it's. I just feel like it can get bad, and I think that leads to I mean, that type of depression obviously has led to a lot of loss of like, great band members and stuff. And like the singer of, Black Dahlia Murder obviously was one of the more well-known recent ones, who had succumbed to that. And then I read that, oh God, there's a band that was from our scene that we only bumped in that they had the same issue. So like, I mean, it's just, it's a problem, and I
mhm.
get it, but like, I, I don't know what the answer, like, I don't know if there's any one universal answer, but for me, it was writing my way out of that pit, and, my, I was seeing a therapist trying to work through this too, as I was trying to like figure out what was wrong with me. And he had this really interesting thing that he said. He said, "Hey, Sean, you know that scientists have only ever been able to reproduce depression in animals by doing one thing, and that's putting them in a trap with no hope of getting out." He goes, "That's, animals just don't experience this like humans do." He goes, "So why don't you learn from that? Like, why are you trapped and how do you get out?" And so
Mhm.
that was helpful to understand too. And it was interesting that, this guy I'm paying hundreds of dollars had the exact same idea that my wife, whom,
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I life with, they came to the same conclusion. So apparently it was pretty clear, I was, it was pretty clear what was wrong. And I always joke that like, I go into meetings and I size people up and I'm a hell of a negotiator. Like I can come in and I make car salesmen cry when I go in and buy cars. I mean, I
Mhm,
fucking love it. I just
mhm.
love it. I can size a motherfucker up like nothing, but I don't know shit about myself.
Yeah.
And like it's like such a blind spot, and yeah. So, but those two had me pegged.
I mean, like one thing that we learned from it, just give your wife a couple of $100 to get a nice dress and take her out on the town, right?
Yeah, she has it all. I give her all. Yeah.
But the more I learn from you right now, the more some of the lines in the new record are highly interesting. And I always like to look at, for example, the first line of lyrics and the last line of lyrics.
Hmm.
And when I then take what you've just said, then the introspective part of the first track on the new album makes even more sense because the first thing that you tell us is there is no one to blame for me. Carry on, eyes down. That is
Yeah.
basically what you were describing, right?
Yeah. 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 It's like I think that when you spin out and you get yourself in that kind of, hole, I
Mm,
think that you immediately lean towards that you are a burden on everyone, right? You hear that all the time, right? It's like the
mm,
world is better off without me. My kids are better out without me. My wife is better off without me. I'm a drag down. So that is how, I mean, that's just how I perceived it, and to me, this record was interesting because like some of the first lyrics that I write are in Dead Ringer and some of the latest ones, and then the ideas formed, right? But
yeah.
like I was really happy that we got to choose Loose Tooth as the first one. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, it's just got to come out of nowhere. Like
Mm,
I already know that people are going to complain that it's not Coalesce. I already know this, you know what I mean? Because that's just how the internet and the world is. It's like they want you to write the same thing that they like over and over again. But
yeah, but then they'll complain that you are not progressing.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Yeah, you can't win. So, but like to me, it's like I was just really not that I mean, this record was written for ourselves, but like without really the intention of it being put out. But like I was just really happy when that first one, when we landed, like, yeah, this has to be the first song, because I was like, cool, this is the first line that I want it to come out, you know. And like that, I haven't always been able to do that on other records that I've done. You know what I mean? It's like it's real different when you just have one partner to work with than when you
Mm.
have three partners to work
Yeah.
with. You know, there's only two ideas. I only have to convince one person why I
Yeah.
want this thing here.
Yeah.
I don't have to convince three people.
Mm.
Excuse me, you know, and when you're less likely to win when you have to convince three people than when you have to convince one
Yeah, of
person.
course.
What are you
Totally.
doing? So yeah, so like being able to put those in places and kind of tell that story that I wanted to tell was exactly, I mean, it was intentional, you know,
Mm.
and that was, I mean, I was very lucky to get to do that.
Yeah. It's you've just mentioned people wanting you basically to repeat Coalesce over and over again. Of course, we will talk about Coalesce in a little bit because I think there are some things that I would like to talk about. But there is one thing that to me Idle Heirs and Coalesce share, and that is the fact that it's very, very hard to put both bands into a genre. You know, many people thought about Coalesce. I've heard like that is metalcore. Other people said, no, that's mathcore. And others were like, oh, it's just noise and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, with Idle Heirs, I've read a lot of interesting things. I've read alternative metal, I've read post metal. Well, but now my question, isn't it once again the fact that if you, with whoever, are making music, then something comes out that is hard to pinpoint because it's not intentionally any kind of genre.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think that um it's just not who I am. I've never been able to write for a genre. Like to me, we chose post metal because that's what makes the most sense, right? You know what I mean? As far as like, you know, what
Yeah.
is post metal, right? You know, it's long, it's drawn out. You
Yeah.
got 10-minute songs, it's
Yeah.
soft, heavy, you know what I mean? It's metal, it's all that. But yeah, you're right. It definitely has an element of rock to it. And I'm sure that's where
Yeah.
people are coming from the alternative, you know, and I like that. I like not doing that. You know what I mean? Because you know, a lot of times I will listen to like Spotify new music, and I'm like grindcore. You know,
Yeah.
I've heard these records. You know what I mean? Like I have Carcass, I have At the Gates, I have Napalm Death, I have,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like it's this very, you know what I mean? But then there's something real fucking weird, and that's who
Yeah.
I am. And but my kids are kind of the opposite. You know what I mean? They're like, Dad, I love grindcore. Dad, I
Yeah.
just love any band that sounds like this. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I mean, there's a place for it, but for me, yeah, I mean, it's like I you know, like with Coalesce, we came out, we were heavy, so we're hardcore. You know, it was a very small scene back
Yeah.
then.
I remember back in the day, we put you into the hardcore scene. Yes, of
Yeah, we're
course.
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever listen to a hardcore band? We're not hardcore. You know what I mean? And we just played this Furnace Fest last year, and we were like acutely reminded we are not a fucking hardcore band. Like this is like
Yeah.
we love these people, and
Yeah.
you know, and these are great guys, but like hardcore, we are not. You know what I mean? We are definitely not. Yes, the big stage band, none of this stuff. Fans don't react to us the way that they do, like you know, Norma Jean or August Burns Red, or
Yeah.
you know, all these types of things. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a very give and take. You know what I mean? This song was written for you, whereas our songs are just not. Our songs are very, you know, like written for us, how we
Yeah.
want to play, how we want to feel on stage, right? And it just doesn't translate to sing-alongs, you know, with the exception of the accidental "You Can't Kill Us All" intro, which people, you know, definitely respond to because
Of course.
it's too weird, you know. It's like it's just, you know, stripped down vocal, but yeah, I mean, for Coalesce, it's I think it's harder because we love being in kind of like the noise rock world. and we love to like we love it if we can fit in with like a doom band, touring with Harvey Milk and Great Falls and Museum of like all these that are just cool, interesting, unique bands. Like that's what we love. But with Idle Airs, it's like it's I feel like it's more, I don't know. It's like we did this Philly festival that was just had a lot of really super interesting bands
Hmm.
like rock all over. And I felt like we fit in great because it was just all independent music and that type of like setting. It's like you don't want to listen to all of it. It's not like Hellfest from 2001.
Yeah.
It's just like all sorts of creative music, and so um I feel like that one fits and it's easier for us than like with Coalesce. Like if they put us like on a straight edge show, it's just like we're not going to have a good time because you guys don't like us. You know what I mean? And this isn't our kind. We're not your thing. But I feel like with Idle Airs is like, hey, you got distorted guitar, cool, let's go. You know what I mean? We're gonna fit in.
It's cool that you mentioned guitar because looking up who has been part of a record, I saw that there are several guitar players. But let's be clear, the project in and of itself is basically just you and Josh, right?
Yeah, so Josh writes all of the music and composes all of the music. And then I do all of the lyrics and the vocal arrangements, and then we come together and then we edit the songs together and and we build them together as a duo. And then what we do is we invite our friends to perform the songs live
Mhm.
and to record the songs. So this record was actually tracked live. And then each of these songs are single takes. I
Mhm.
think even Dead Ringer was in one take. We played it once,
Wow.
went through,
That is amazing for a 9 minute track, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and our friends are incredibly proficient musicians. Chris, Brad, Brandon, Ben. I mean, um, it's they just came ready to do this record, and they were very excited about the opportunity to work with Josh because he knows them from other bands that he's produced, so they
Mhm.
highly respect him. Um but yeah, I mean, it like for us, it's like an opportunity to be a seven piece or be a five piece.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to um really just do what we want to do with like without all the downsides
Mhm.
of being in a band, which is sometimes too many opinions. It's not always the case. Sometimes a lot of opinions make amazing stuff. But I think
Yeah.
that like for this at 50 and Josh is in I think he's in his either late 30s or early 40s. I think we were just like, no, like let's just we just want to deal with each other, you know what I mean, as far as
Mhm.
that. And then everybody, once we present the song to everybody to record, then they are able to add their personality to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, we liken it to Nine Inch Nails, right? It's got the two guys
Of
and then
course.
they bring their friends out
Yeah.
and bring their friends in. That's really kind of how we've set it up.
How was it to work with somebody who is basically in our day and age, who's a generation younger than you are, who comes from a different background, who brings different ideas?
It's almost like sometimes it's distortion because it's
Hmm.
like he'll reference a band that I know is influenced by Coalesce, and we're
Yeah.
now being influenced by that band, and it's coming back. So it's like it's like almost like a feedback sometimes, and it's cool, you
Hmm.
know. And so he definitely has some stuff that he references that I'm like, yeah, I was kind of around for the start of that, not the tail end
Hmm.
of it. Not my thing. But then also he's introduced me to stuff that I'm like, I'm home. This is what I want. I
Hmm.
was missing
Hmm.
this, and
Yeah.
so um, I think that this, I think that it is really easy to become a dinosaur, and it is
Yeah.
really easy to be stuck in your ways. And
Definitely.
we're kind of like in like I feel like the bands now that were around in the 90s that are still playing, I think they're in this kind of like unique position that people don't realize now, but will in 10 years, or talk about it more, is that they are the trailblazers of aging gracefully with this music,
Mm.
right? So it's like before, before it's like people thought of hardcore as like, yeah, I do it in my 20s, and that's the time frame. That was the
Yeah.
idea. That's not the idea anymore,
No.
and I was talking about this with Jess, and I was like, well, what do you think? And he's just like, he goes, when Napalm Death quits, that's the answer. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're the base. It's like whatever the fuck they do is that will be the answer. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. It's like when Barney and them are done, it's like that's the age, you know what I mean? Because they're still going strong and they're still vital, but it is like, to me, it's like being involved with younger people is so incredibly important. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Because it's
Fountain of
like,
youth, right?
yeah, you have to learn new things, and they have to rub off on you, and you have
Yeah.
to, because it's no different. Because I feel like you insulate yourself when you get older, right? It's like I'm just like, yeah, I already have the bands. It's scientifically proven that you stop looking for new music really at a certain age when you're
Yeah.
older, and then you're just doing. But like, when you were younger, you were like discovering new bands and all that, and that's how this was
On a
happening.
weekly basis, wasn't it?
Totally. And so it's like, to me, it's like being involved with younger people. They make you do that, and they
Yeah.
bring you back into it. And I love that about it.
Mm.
And there's only so much you can get from Spotify playlists, right? You know what I mean? It's like you got to get out there. You got to go to shows. You got to see the stuff, see what it feels. And like, to me, the younger people make me do that. And I like that. I like that about it.
Or you got to read good web scenes that can tell you something about new music.
Yes,
Thanks
you
for
gotta
that
you
little.
gotta
I
watch
had to
playlist
take
sound,
that.
right?
I had to take that, of course. It is interesting, and I have like two things connected to what you've just said, and one is I've mentioned it. Josh comes from a different musical background, and when I, for example, listen to Rare Bird, the intro to the track has, well, I don't want to say poppy, but a very clear drum line, which would never have happened in Coalesce.
Yeah,
Never.
yeah, yeah.
But isn't that also one of the wonderful things to incorporate something like that into your own new music that 15 years ago would just not have been possible?
Yeah, I mean, when Josh put this music together, and we were first being like, hey, what are we going to, like, what I was like, what are you giving me? Like, what do we
Yeah.
sound like?
Yeah.
He gave me something that the first song he gave me was actually a demo of what ended up being Mama. And that I was like, okay, cool. This is somebody who wants to do something in left field. This is somebody who's not writing for my past. This is somebody who's writing for himself and inviting me to, collaborate with him. So when, one of the first other ones that he brought out was Rare Bird on that demo. And I was like, cool, you're right. It's poppy. It's a little bit poppy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Well, I
that's
mean,
why,
like only like the first minute or two, but then,
yeah. And then it's heavy. So I just, and I liked how it didn't repeat. It didn't follow a normal song structure. I liked how it was still 6 minutes. I liked how I was able to tell the story I wanted to tell
Mhm.
and get a complete thought. So like, to me, like being able to kind of hit that kind of like rock intro, you know what I mean? It's like it was exactly what I wanted, because I've never done that before. And so I don't know if it was really conscious because he wasn't writing for vocal lines. It's like we put the vocal lines and later and the arrangements later, and talked about what would make the song better, et cetera. Like you do. But yeah, to me, like, there was so much freedom with this. You know what I mean? That and there's so many different sounds and there's so many different songs. And I mean, they kind of follow a sound and a pattern, right? Because they all kind of build up and explode. But like,
And they
um,
follow a similar tuning as well, of course.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and so yeah, you're right. And like in Coalesce, it's like Jess and Nate battle out the tunes, right?
Yeah.
And then the drummer comes in, and then I come in afterwards, and then we like, kick all the dust up and start all over, and how to do it, and Coalesce is at an age now to where it has it. I know that we can do whatever we want because we always have. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, but I think that from I think that when you are a band that's been around and has as many records as Coalesce does, like you don't want to come in with like some left field shit. You know what I mean? It's like you want to write a Coalesce record. It's like you
Yeah,
want to be in the same spirit. Otherwise, why are you calling it Coalesce, right? It's
yeah.
like you know. So it's like in that context, yeah, Jess might put in a you know you know 3-4 beat or or some rock. Who knows what he'll come up with because like he's Jess, and he can't be contained, but yeah, but like on this airs thing, it's like Coalesce wasn't even a consideration at all. Like there was never any there's never like we can't do this because thought that or fleeting thought. Not that we have those thoughts in any other band, but like you're still aware of them. And anybody who's been around for a while kind of knows, right? It's like you're not writing the Coalesce country record. You know what I mean? It's like you're writing a Coalesce record if you're writing a
Well, I
Coalesce
mean,
record.
like if Beyonce can do a country record, why can't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you could, but like that's just kind of how we,
I know.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of how we approach it.
The other question that I connected to your previous answer is you have mentioned that you recorded this record at Ocean Sound Studio in Norway. And for anybody, we'll give you the link to that studio and just visit the gallery. I think I have never in my life seen a studio set in in a similarly amazing location.
It's incredible.
Yes.
It's not, yeah, it's
I
not.
didn't know that before, but I mean, like only looking at it, it's already inspiring.
Yeah.
But let me ask it this way. Why ocean sounds in Norway? There are, I know that for sure. There are recording studios in the US.
Yeah. I mean, Josh works in one. Yeah. It would
Exactly.
have been, it would have been very inexpensive and easy to just
Mhm.
record in Kansas City. So, when Josh had written this music, I had, we had talked about it for so long that I had told him, I was like, do it or don't talk to me if you're not going to do it. I don't want to talk about doing something. I want to do it or I don't want to do it. And if I
Mhm.
don't want to, and if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Just I won't talk about it. So he took that as a challenge and he flew off to the Pacific Northwest and he wrote it around water.
Mhm.
And so it was stormy and gloomy and he
Mhm.
was trying to get in touch with that kind of like that side and just get away from work and be able to just break through that kind of veil to be creative and not think about it and just let it be, right? And so he he came back and he's like, I want to record around water too. And
Mhm.
so it's one of the first ones that comes up when you search for recording
Mhm.
studios that by water. And then he was like, holy shit, Cult of Luna recorded here. Holy
Yep.
shit, all these other people record. He's like, and then we looked at the price, and the price was just not as much as it should be for like what you're getting.
Yeah.
I was just amazed at how inexpensive it was. But so he called me up and he's just like, look, I know this is nuts. He goes, but we may never get the opportunity to record again. How do you feel about just treating this like a vacation and just leaving the country for 10 days and
Mhm.
see what happens and go from there. And so that's exactly what we did. I was just like, yeah, you're right. Because our thought process was we're going to record this. Our kids, our friends are going to hear it. Maybe we'll put it on Bandcamp for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like this isn't something that was written for consumption or to be monetized. And
Mm.
so for us, what was so important along the way was making sure that everything we did was like something meaningful and interesting to us for the
Yeah.
creative process, whether we're writing it, whatever, and then recording it. And so that's really why we chose that. It's like water was the very first thing, and then being away from home was the second thing. And then just, it being a studio that, a band that we worship happened to record there was
Yeah.
just like icing and a cherry on top.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody wants to know a little bit more about Cult of Luna and one of our masterminds, visit our archive. We did one on January 1st with Johannes. There is also a very clear difference between Coalesce and Idle Airs when it comes to your sound, because I think I've never heard you lay out so many clean vocals as on this record.
Yeah.
I'm very sure that is intentional. Um, but then the question is, why is it intentional?
Well, it's just because I never really had the opportunity
Mhm.
to do it. Coalesce doesn't call for this type of thing. To
Mhm.
me, to tell a story, to tell the type of story that I wanted to tell without Coalesce, in my mind, because Coalesce came after we recorded this, the opportunity to play again. To me, it's like I wanted to be able to utilize different tools. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like I
Mhm.
wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I wanted to just do things that I wanted to do because I wanted to do them. And so, um, yeah, I can scream. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
I know that, and so,
You're
um,
okay at it.
yeah, I'm okay. So like, I just wanted to.
Don't undersell yourself. You're pretty good at it.
So, but like, yeah, I mean, I just I wanted to tell the story of Mama the way it needed to be told. I wanted to tell the story of, of like like the little bridge in Pillow Talk, the beginning of Rarebird. It's like all of these types of
Also, the
things.
beginning of Loose too. Yes, of course, I know
Yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah. There's like 2.5 minutes of just vocal and guitar. So like to me, it's like I had to, you know what I mean? It's like if I'm going to be creative, I want to do, I want to do something I've never done before, and that's something I'd never really had the opportunity to. Like we had a couple bit parts and Ox, uh, the comedian, at the beginning of that song, I got to sing and it worked. But like,
You got the acoustic version of Blue Collar Lullaby on Funko's acoustic.
yeah, totally, and so there's just some things like kind of like little bit parts there, but yeah, I mean, Coalesce just doesn't call for that tool,
Yeah.
and I wanted to flex that muscle,
Mm.
and see if I
Definitely.
could see if I even had that muscle.
Before I come to the last track, I would like to give you like two, maybe three questions about Coalesce. First thing is, Coalesce was always a band that was known not only for making great music, but also being open to do amazing split records. You had Napalm Death, you had Converge, Today is a Day, Boy Sets Fire, the Get Up Kids. I hope I got them all. If you could pick one, which one of those was the most fun?
Oh, most fun?
Most fun.
Um, I think the most fun one, well, let me back up. The most important was the Napalm Death one.
Yeah, of course.
That introduced us to the world. We had
Yeah,
no,
and
we
then
didn't,
the second most important is Converge, of course.
But the Napalm Death thing, we didn't know what that would mean.
Yeah.
That was like probably the most important thing in our career.
Also came out on a huge label. Yes, of
Yeah,
course. Yeah.
Eric Records. Yeah. And so I think that the most fun was probably the Get Up Kids one
Yeah.
um, and it wasn't even our portion of it. It was getting to hear their portion
Yeah.
and seeing Robbie and Matt being like, and we did this, and this is why we did it this way. And I actually have one for You Can't Kill Us All. And well, and all of this stuff. And it was just such a bizarre pairing because it's like they dwarfed us in popularity, they dwarfed us in sales, it's like why would they even fuck with us, you know what I mean? But like they were very cool and we're friends and from the same team, it's from the same scene and all that, and and I helped them with stuff even to this day, like I put together the skateboard for them that they sold on this
Mhm.
last tour, and I, they're on my merch company that I sold, but like that one was by far the most fun because it was so bizarre. And I think people are like, what the fuck when this thing came out? I mean, it was so
Mhm.
weird.
Mhm.
But those splits were mainly that was mainly my push on
Mhm.
the band, like really being like, I want to do this. Let's do something weird.
Mhm.
Let's do something bizarre.
Yeah.
Because, we did the split with Napalm and it was just a song we had and a song they
Yeah.
had. And then we did the split with Converge, and it was very similar to where like, hey, we got the song, hey, we have the song, we go.
Mhm.
And then we started getting kind of crazy of being like, hey, like the Boy Sets Fire one where we covered each other's songs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and to me, it's like at some point I would love to do a split with somebody totally in left field for us, to where we cover each other's song and then write a song together, and like actually no pun intended, but converge together and like kind of make a like something totally bizarre. Like to me, it's like those types of things. I don't even know if like the market can support a 7-inch anymore. I mean, what would a 7-inch cost? $15 to
Well, I
do?
mean, it also depends on who you get. If you get somebody who just cannot do 7 inches, let's say Sun, right?
Mhm.
Something very left field, and they cannot do 7 inches because each of their songs is like 15, 16 minutes long. So
Yeah,
then it's already a 12 inch, right?
yeah, it's
Or a
totally.
10 inch, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, again, and I know that like, I mean, I know that records are getting harder and harder to put out, more expensive to put out, and all that. So, but I just love that weird stuff. It's just, I love how Albert has, brought back flexies and decibel. I just love how bands are doing flex. I just love all that weird stuff.
Yeah,
It's
Ryan from
so fun.
Colosseum, who is publishing 7 inches at his concerts alone. Yes, of course. Weird stuff is the good stuff.
Yeah.
You've just mentioned being a part of a scene. Uh, Coalesce was part of a great scene, mid 90s to the mid zeros, centered around huge, amazing labels, not huge, but amazing labels like Edison, like Hydra Head. Do you nowadays still feel like a part of the scene? You yourself?
Um, Myself, probably not. No,
Mhm.
I feel like, there's those memes of like, weird old guy, back of club, local legend. Yeah, right. That kind of that Hard Times article. I feel kind of like that guy that like people maybe know my work, but they don't know me, because I go to hardcore shows all the time with my 18-year-old son.
Mhm.
Um, and that is me holding merch and for him and back, and nobody gives a shit, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to just like be a part of it.
yeah.
But
Why do you bring your dad?
yeah, why, who's he? But yeah, I don't feel that way, and it was kind of weird because like back in the 90s, it's like that was definitely an East Coast scene that we kind of just always drove into, and
Mm.
and they let us be a part of, and they
Yeah.
were very kind to incorporate us, and Rich
Mhm.
Hall was, who just unfortunately just passed recently, it's like he was booking those shows, and um, and we would just get to, just kind of come and be a part of it. But as far as like Kansas City, the scene that we were in, like lived in, it was very much an emo scene. It wasn't,
The
we would,
Midwest emo scene, right? Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah. We would be the heavy band on those shows, at
Mm.
the VFW hall. It's like, oh yeah, Coalesce is opening up. And then you've got Braid and Get Up Kids and, June Meat World and all these other like bands
Mineral.
that went on to
Yeah,
change, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Mineral, who went on to change the world, and their, in their music scene, and yeah, so like it wasn't like we ever had, like the East Coast when we go and there'd be like 500 kids at a show, that never happened. You know what I mean? We
In
were just
Kansas
kind
City.
of
Yeah.
like, you can't, yeah, in our, yeah, we're just kind of transplants. It was like very, 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 very small.
And last question about your former band, or the band that is not as active anymore. You did a hell of a lot of covers. You've covered, of course, the infamous "Well, let's just do a whole Led Zepp album." Mm. You've
Yeah.
covered Black Flag. You've already mentioned Boys It's Fire. You've covered Sabbath. You've mentioned Get Up Kids. You also mentioned covered the Jesus Lizard ones. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and on the re-release of There Is Nothing New Under the Sun, out on Hydra Head, there are basically all of those apart from the Flag cover and the Jesus Lizard cover. How did that happen?
Yeah. So
Copyright problems?
no, no. That's out of respect to the band. Or actually, it's more out of respect to Jess and to Nate. So in 2002, after, we broke up, we had a terrible breakup in 99. And I didn't get along with the guys in Coalesce because I wanted to do Coalesce, you know what I mean? And they did not. And so, we had put together James DeWeese, who was, our drummer, and then Stacy Hilt, who was original bassist. It was me. And then we recruited our friend Corey White to play guitar. And so that was in 2002, and we did a tour around there off of the 012 record. And so I was definitely young and definitely felt like, who is just to control my future. I put a lot into this band. These other guys put a lot in this band. If he doesn't want to be a part of it, then we'll bring someone else. That is in error. That was in error. This is Jess's band. Like, Jess is the heart and soul of like what makes Coalesce sound like Coalesce. It just is. It takes all of us, but it don't work without Jess, and I don't think it works without me, and I would argue it doesn't work without Nate Ellis either. It's like it's those three people. So those two songs were recorded. We actually recorded another song, which you probably don't even know about. It's never been released at all ever.
Yeah, how should I know that?
It's Amadeus.
Yeah, Amadeus?
Yeah.
Falco?
Amadeus.
You recorded Falco?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
It's bizarre. It's the most ridiculous track. I don't even own a copy of it. But
well, if you got the digital file, send it to me. I won't tell anybody, but
I don't have it. I really don't. I truly don't have it. I don't know who has it. But we recorded those three songs, and yeah. So really, it's just I don't really consider those as part of
the legacy,
of our legacy, even though it is in the context that we did those things and I did those things, but it's not something that it's like that's something I want to leave in the past, and there was also one other song, the Bob Jr. song, we were not able to get either, only because the label, that weird label, Punk Does Everything or whatever I think it was on, they refused to like call us back. And then we heard a rumor that they've been like bought and sold and nobody knows who owns what. And it just wasn't worth the headache of like a possible legal, it's putting it on, or whatever. But
I've said that I want to talk about the last track on Life is Violence. It's Mama. You've already mentioned it. It's to me, it is very similar to Blue Collar Lullaby, the acoustic version, because it highlights your voice very, very well. And I've said that I like last lines on the record. The last line in Mama is, this is how I was made against my will. This is how I was made, designed to kill. Can you explain those lines a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So that song really was it was an exploration of like as you're spiraling out, right, like I mentioned earlier in this talk, it really, you get into that kind of like existential of like, what is the point, who am I, so I live in the country. I got really lucky right before the pandemic. I got the fuck out of town, got 5 acres, and I live in heaven. I have no reason to be unhappy or sad for the rest of my life. I'm very, very blessed, in that.
Also, because you got a wife who knows you.
She knows. Yeah. And so, as I'm, I call it trying to comb out the spaghetti, which is my brain, and straighten it out and go through. I go on walks on my property, and I stumbled upon a mommy rabbit, and there's actually an illustration of it that we illustrated in the booklet of the album. And so from her shoulder forward, she was gone. So it was just the last 3/4 of her. And then she had 3 babies that had spilled out right next to her. And that, to me, when I saw that, and that's always like horrifying to stumble upon dead animals, which I do often actually when you live on property. But as I was kind of trying to, understand myself, it's like when I saw that, it just kind of clicked. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, we, we come into this world against our will. You know what I mean? We're here. What are we doing? You know what I mean? And like, I just really like, to me, that was such a powerful image, and moment that kind of sparked that aha moment of like, it's we're prey and we're predator all at the same time. You know what I mean? We have this duality, you know what I mean? And it's like we can't help it. You know what I mean? It's not our fault, you know what I mean? And we're just, we're playing the part that, we're born into. And so there's another line, it's not the last line, but I think one of the more important lines on that song is just a little blood to see it through. And like I just love that realization that like every great thing, like every great passage, birth, death, everything, it's through blood. It's like you're spilling blood no matter, in or out, and and feeding and nourishing, you're spilling blood. It's like you're spilling blood everywhere you go. And I just, like I mentioned earlier, I've been making people money selling fucking t-shirts with their faces on it. You know what I mean? I didn't never took the time to kind of like explore those types of ideas in a creative way, and it took the loss of, this mama bunny and her spilled babies, um, on the ground to kind of like stop me in my tracks and just be like, okay, what am I when I get down, when you get down to it, like really truly, what am I, and in the first lyrics of that, like new wet ripped right into, I mean, that's very literal to, to the bunnies,
Yeah, it's a very, very nice way also, because to me, there is of course no lyrical connection between the first and the last track, but mood wise, they are very similar. And both, of course, give a lot of food for thought. So it is easy to loop the record after that, like to have it on repeat and to not even notice that it's repeating itself, which is, of course, a very good thing. One thing that I hope that you will not repeat from your first band, I hope you will not become such a record collector's pain in the ass with Idle Heirs.
Yeah. You don't want me to George Lucas it for you and like
well, I don't want to have to look for, I think, what is it, 8 versions of Coalesce and Voice That's Fire?
No, I think those days are over. We do. Idle Airs does have one extra variant.
One CD and free vinyl.
There's 3 colors of vinyl, and then we did a limited hand screen cover, hand numbered for the people who attended the first show.
Yeah.
And those were on the tri-merge. So 50 of those are actually that, or 58 actually. Yeah, that was the 90s. That was the 90s, baby.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, like, I first of all have all the Coalesce stuff, but I'm still, for some of them, I'm still trying to search for a few of the variants. Like, okay. And then once in a while, a friend calls me and says, like, I found another one, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. So I do. There's this really rad kid named Joe his name's Joe from Cincinnati. He's an amazing dude. Yeah, I mean, he's Joe from Cincinnati. He's an Uber Coalesce collector, and probably 15 years ago, we painstakingly went through every single variant there possibly was, the real numbers. I mean, we did the math and we called the labels, and this is before Johnny had passed, and and we had it all, and we put it on our website, but then the fucking website went down. But I found I found it on the Wayback Machine, and I have a PDF of it. I can send it to you. It's the definitive list of exactly.
Don't send it to me, because otherwise I will go crazy. No.
But yeah, no,
So let
you're
me guess, it
absolutely,
is a 3-digit number, right?
yeah, it's a lot. So, but two things that I will say about that. When we first did the Safe Play 7 inch, there were definitely colors of vinyl that were not accounted for that just were in there, and it was kind of
Mhm.
like a clear green. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that somebody just threw plastic in there and like, who gives a shit? Nobody knows this band, whatever. Because I remember there was like two copies of that because I went through every single one, and then I ended up selling it, but to buy diapers or formula or something, right? So over the years, but the second thing is my mother just recently came to live with us. She lost her husband and she needs help, and so we're also in the process of cleaning out her house. Apparently, I gave my mom one of almost everything, and as we're going through her stuff, we found original Earache record 7 inch on blue, which is the limited color. We found the original 7 inch with the Beretta gun shirt on it. We found all of this first stuff. We found original Red House recording CDs of the
Oh yeah,
records,
yeah.
their master. We found all of this history. It was incredible. She even, get this, she even had uh, on her wall, she had an original rejected Aaron Turner painting for the 002 Safe Place 10 inch, that Second Nature. Apparently, we did two of them. One of them he did kind of more the mustard yellow, but he also did a burnt sienna. And then I was like, nah, we want to go with the yellow. And so it's just,
Mom got the burnt sienna.
Mom got it. Yeah, she kind of put it in an ad hoc frame, and it has Aaron Turner's name on the back. He wrote it. He wrote Aaron Turner. You know what I mean? I guess he never asked for it back, and so here it was sitting in my mom's house for 20 something years, and my kids are like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I think that's an Aaron Turner original." It's like, wasn't a big deal back in the day, but it's a
Yeah, nowadays.
fucking big deal now. And
Yeah.
it's like, so they're like super stoked, because they're just, and they found all the original T-shirts. They found all the old, I was buddies with the guy who did Blue Grape at the time, and he would send me Slipknot shit. I mean, I didn't wear it, but
Yeah,
they
me
found
neither.
all their old Slipknot, hockey jerseys, they're like worth like, $3,000 now and all this insane stuff. So it's just this time machine, but we found all of that at mom's house. It was a super trip.
And then, of course, for your children, it's also cool, in a way to see what dad was up to. Like it's not just dad talking about it, but like, okay, you can look at it, you can listen to it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, and they're just discovering stuff, like
Mhm.
they're like, what is this? It's like a actual plain on cassette tape. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's this.
What
It's
the?
yeah, it's like it's like that was we. It's this shows our age, but to them, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe this. It's like, yeah, it's like that was nothing for us.
Yeah, I got a similar experience a few years ago. I mean, like I'm a huge Boys Set Fire fan. Apart from one thing, I got everything in every variant. Um, and a few years back on Discogs, I discovered that fuck, they made cassettes for After Biology. Not in Europe, not in the States, no, in effing Malaysia.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting
So of
one.
course I had to get that, and it comes, and my daughter looks at it and like, Dad, what's that? That's music. Nah, Dad, that can't.
Didn't know what a cassette was, or like never seen it before. Yeah, yeah, it's foreign looking. Yeah.
And so I can now say for like that that gap has been closed. I'm still looking for one of the variants of one of the earlier albums. But Sean, thanks first of all, for all the insight into Idle Airs, for the little talk about Coalesce. But of course, you also have to go through the quick fire round at the end of every Veil of Sound interview. I will
Okay.
always give you two alternatives, and you have to choose. Let's start with something easy. Sumac versus ISIS.
ISIS. I grew up with ISIS.
Hmm.
Sumac. I wasn't around for Sumac. I know ISIS. I love ISIS.
Is there something in Sumac that you like?
I love how creative it is.
Mhm.
It's a difficult record. And I think that ISIS is like so important to
Yeah.
Idle Heirs. I mean, let's face it, you know, it's like it's just I'm ISIS baby. It's
Mhm.
all day.
Giving you two records by Converge. Jane Doe versus No Heroes.
Jane Doe.
Mhm.
Jane Doe is every bit as important as the world says it is.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Dillinger Escape Plan, Miss Machine, or Calculating Infinity?
I like Dimitri.
So, Calculating Infinity.
Yeah. I don't dislike Greg. I like Dimitri.
Mhm. The Jesus Lizard, Liar or Goat?
Fuck, that one's hard.
I know.
Probably goat. And I don't even really have a good explanation why.
You
Because I
don't
have
have
to
to.
pick one. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have to pick.
Our Common Friends and Boy Sets Fire. I'll give you The Day the Sun Went Out versus After the Eulogy.
Um the you I can't remember which record it's on, but the
So The Day the Sun Went Out is the one with the Da Vinci Man, and After the Eulogy is the one with the First World War soldiers.
so it's the one I like of theirs is the one with the song that we cover, you know, I am no one, I am no.
That is Vehicle, and that is of course on The Day the Sun Went Out. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, because a lot of the stuff like we would kind of, you know, we were like new guys in these scenes, and then they would put out these great records afterwards, but they weren't on my radar. And so like
Mhm.
there's not like I feel like with these types of bands that you're mentioning and stuff, I feel like there's like a healthy dose of nostalgia that makes it me choose,
Yeah.
you know.
There is a healthy dose, or maybe even unhealthy dose, in the next couple. Mineral versus Jimmy Eat World.
Oh, it's Jimmy Eat World. I'm sorry. I have something to add to this.
Yes, please.
Um, in I don't know. Oh, when did Clarity come out? When 99 maybe?
Uh,
Um,
yeah, it should be 99. Yeah, it should be
Nine.
99 because Bleed American was 2001. So it should be
Gotcha. Yeah,
99.
yeah. 'Cause they had to change the name because of 9/11.
Yes.
So, and they changed it back, thank God. I love that. And so we were on tour and we actually had Clarity before it came out because
Mhm.
they weren't like a huge and gigantic band like they are now. And we
Righteously so, I would also
Yeah,
add.
yeah, yeah. Greatest band ever. And so I mean we wore that tape out.
Mhm.
James DeWeese got it because he was in the band at the time and he had got it from the Get Up Kids because he was also in the Get Up Kids. And they were friends with them and it was just a handmade thing. And we just played that thing over. And so God, that last song, you know, where it's just kind of like on the East Coast, and we were coming into Boston, and the promoter was like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry we had to combine shows tonight. Some fucking emo bullshit." And we're like, "Okay, cool." And like, you know, it's like he would think that we wouldn't like those types of bands. I
Mhm.
clearly didn't know who we were, you know, and we're, you know, that we actually have more common with,
Mm.
you know, with the Midwest emo bands than we do with, you know, hardcore bands or, you know, whatever people can call us at the time. And we're like, cool, who's here? Who's here? And it was Jimmy Eat World and Jejun on that tour.
Ooh.
And so
Also a great split.
oh yeah, love it. I still have it. It's one of the few ones that survived. And we were flipping out. It was at the
Yeah.
Ice House in Baltimore. It's the club that you see that memed where it's like, you know, the you have to take the base cabinet and it's just stairs going straight up. That's the
Mm.
Ice House. So we load all our shit up there, and then we got through our set, and then we just were, you know, watching Jimmy Eat World and Jejun and just in love, you know, for the
Yeah.
rest of the night. And then, you know, hung out afterwards and must smoke 2 packs of cigarettes with them and just shot the shit and just fell in love with those dudes. And so
Mhm.
even Bleed American, all of those other records, they're so great. Jimmy Eat
Mhm.
World is one of the greatest bands ever.
Mhm.
And they're just they deserve all the success that they've enjoyed for sure. Not to say anything about Mineral because I work with Mineral. They're all great, but if we're making this,
if you have to choose,
if this is a sport, it's Jimmy World. I'm so sorry.
It's good that you mentioned sports because that's the last one that I want to give you. Coming from the Kansas City area, if you could watch a game tonight by one of the two following teams, which one would it be? The Taylor Swift Chiefs or the Royals?
I'm a baseball guy.
So Royals.
Yeah. Go Royals.
Kaufman Stadium.
The last two World Series runs they did were some of the greatest. Coming back from 20 run deficit in the ninth inning, unbelievable. God, what a run that was. I want to add a couple more anecdotes if we have time. At that time during their run, I was working for a radio station and they would give us free tickets to WWE, like the Goofy Wrestling, like Stone Cold and The Rock and all that. And this was during
what The Rock is cooking.
Yeah, exactly. This wasn't during the Attitude Era. This was during, much later, but during that run. So I guess it was like 10 years ago. So my point is that we went to one of those shows and it was during one of the World Series runs of the Royals.
Okay.
And it's packed. It's the Sprint Center. It's like a huge place that like Tool would sell out, right? And so we're sitting there and like everyone's watching the wrestling. In the city, it's so interesting because the city like just spontaneously interrupted the wrestling match and just was going, "Let's go Royals." And then it got thunderous and it was so loud. It was a live taping and it got so loud that you could see they went to commercial break and then all of the wrestling people who make decisions, they had to flip the script on the fly. And so one of the bad guys, I can't remember who his name was, he went in the ring and then he just started trashing the Royals. People were throwing food, people were going fucking bonkers. Let me tell you, when I say the entire city came together for the Royals, that was our first taste of winning. We have been winning since. So I mean, we're in like the Patriot territory now, right? It's like who gives a shit?
Yes. And you're also in the we all hate the Chiefs territory. I mean, like let's face it.
Yeah. And we're well aware of it. Patrick Mahomes is actually great for the city. He's really invested in the city and all that. And it is.
You mean like invested? He's emotionally invested, and he invested into the city. And that is even cooler, right?
He's part owner of the Royals. He's here. He's Kansas City through and through. If he leaves, like moves or leaves this area, it'll be kind of shocking because he's thrown down roots, and he's an interesting guy because like his dad was a professional baseball player.
Yes, exactly. But he didn't play for the Royals, did he? He played for the Royals.
No, it wasn't the Royals, but he witnessed how fickle the fans were, and he realized very early on that if you're going to throw down roots, and Kansas City it's a big small town, and so. But also, I'm hyper aware that people are sick of our shit, and it's like you see the same team. It's like you get tired of rooting for them. But I am not a football person. I'm baseball through and through. Whenever I go on business trips, I always am like, Uber, is there a game going? Can I get out of here early so I can just go sit and have a dog and a beer and be left alone for a couple hours and just watch baseball? So that's
So what is your predictions for the Royals season then?
I have not paid attention in the past 3 years, so I have no clue. I don't even know who's playing for him right now. It's terrible because after that they disassembled the team and they partied it out, and like who knows. So I am hoping this summer to get back into it and know what the heck's going on.
So something that everybody should be getting into is like Life is Violence by Idle Heirs because it's an awesome record. It's a very different Sean Ingram. It's still Sean Ingram, but a different one. Sean, thanks for music. Thanks for the interesting talk and enjoy the rest of your day, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Have a great day. Thanks again.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right.